All right, hey everyone, Sean Waldman with Secure Cyber Defense. I want to thank you for joining us for this now third episode of our video podcast series. Today I'm joined by David Lackey with VoipWerx in the Cincinnati region. So we brought David onto the show today to just kind of introduce everyone to who you are and what you do and your expertise. I know we here at Secure Cyber Defense utilize you and your services often, not only just for us as a company, but for our customers. And this is a good platform to just kind of explain, kind of your role and how you benefit customers and the services you provide. So why don't we just start with maybe just introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about, how you started the company and all that.
Thanks, Sean. I really appreciate it. So I've been in the telecommunications and technology industry since April Fool's Day of 1999. So not sure if there's a karma there or not, but
maybe.
But I spent a lot of years working with a particular solution that the manufacturer had, and trying to make sure that it was as flexible as possible for a client. But as cloud started to come out and technology, the rate of change is increasing, and the speed at which that happens and how companies need to be nimble is happening at a much faster rate. So in 2017, I took the leap and started my own company, VoipWerx, which is designed to leverage cloud solutions for clients. And what I have is I have partnerships with hundreds of suppliers, of cloud suppliers, and in like 6 different disciplines, from SD-WAN to voice over IP technology, cybersecurity, fiber, internet, and cloud storage, data centers, anything that you can think of. And what we do is we pre-qualify solutions. So I'll meet with the client. We'll talk about what their needs are. Then I pre-qualify who I bring to the table based upon that client's tool. A little different method than what I'd spent 18 years doing, because before you had this widget and you had to find someone who needed that widget.
Sure.
Now I'm trying to match up the right widgets to the client's needs.
And that's how we met, right? Long time ago. You were a vendor of mine, and helped me locate a phone system. You've done phone line audits for me, and you've looked at my phone bills, and so utilizing you for those resources have been great over time, and you've helped us select our internet connection and fiber and all the things for here at our company. So I think you're kind of a hidden gem, right, for a lot of organizations. There's a big benefit in that there's no cost, right? Really, essentially to utilize your services.
Right. Yeah. So, from my industry experience, we always had to do a lot of extra work up front. So it was just a natural thing that if I wanted to earn the business, I had to prove the value. So when I started VoipWerx, I kept that methodology. So I have alliances with hundreds of providers. So as long as you source a solution through one of my providers, then there's no cost to you. Because instead of them hiring a bunch of sales reps, they're paying the fee. So no cost to the client. I work to bring you the right solutions, and then have you choose one of those solutions, and then kind of go on from there. And I really work for the long-term piece of it. So it used to be that you had one product, a phone system, and that's really all you had. Now I work with the client, and I'll start with the phones, and it'll go to the internet. It'll go to a redundant internet. It'll go to Office 365. It'll go to SD-WAN. And so they really start to rely on me to bring the right solutions to the table as their needs change and as their needs evolve. And so that's really been a gratifying experience, because clients that I had, like you from early 2000s, are using me for their business today. And whether they're at the same company that they were at before, or if they're at a new organization. They brought me in, and they've trusted me because of what I did before.
Now, I think what I really like about you and your company is that you kind of said it a minute ago. You're an advocate for the customer, meaning that the solution, if I come to you with a need and I'm looking for a phone system, you're not going to sell me the phone system based on that company's spiff for that month, right? So it's not the vendor steering you. It's you're listening to the customer, identifying what their needs are, and then you're narrowing down the solutions. So you may come to them with 2 or 3 options for them to evaluate, not here is your solution. Right?
Correct. Yeah, it's all about customization. So the way any of these vendors work, they all pretty much pay the same no matter what industry you're in. So there's no real push to be drawn to one versus the other, right? So my goal is to have a repeat business, have you use me for the next thing, and if I don't do right by you the first time, you're not going to refer me to the next person and the next person. So the question of compensation is really out of it. It's all about finding the right solution that you'll go and tell the next person that, yeah, Dave will treat you right. So that's really where the sourcing comes down to. I mean, I do a lot of pre-qualifications to make sure that they can have a valuable meeting with the client. One of the first experiences I had when I started the company was a client. They had some very specific requirements about their call center, SMS texting, and integration with Microsoft Dynamics. And so I had to pre-qualify. I went through about 15 different cloud voice providers and nixed about 12 of them and came to the table with 3 because of 12 of them couldn't even do it. But out of those 12 that couldn't do it, there was a lot of conversations where they started off, yeah, we can. But I didn't want to bring anybody to the table that wasn't going to be able to deliver. And so we had productive meetings with those vendors, with the client, where the client, the client then quids those 3 on how they met the requirements, and then they got one that they were comfortable with. Okay. That's who they selected.
Great. So you've got access to a very interesting tool set. It's called Pathfinder. Mm-hmm. And why don't you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's a very beneficial tool. And if we can, we'll put some screenshots up of it. Okay. But tell us how Pathfinder works and how that benefits it.
Yeah, so when I started, it didn't exist in the format it is now. So it was a lot of legwork. So I got on the phone. I did a lot of pre-qualification just to get the right people to the table. So I have these engineers that I source that pre-qualify vendors, but then I had to talk to them, and then I had to talk to the vendor themselves and kind of narrow it down. This Pathfinder tool has been in development and for about the past, and we've been using it heavily for the past year. And what that does is put a lot of information right at my fingertips. So things that would take me a week now can take me 15, 20 minutes, an hour.
That's a good benefit.
quite a time saver.
Right.
I mean, I can pull up quotes for fiber across the country in a matter of 10 minutes. I just need addresses, and it can be multiple sites. And I can pull them up from 10 different carriers in the area across the country. And we can make decisions based upon that, where it used to be, hey, I'll send out the addresses, I'll wait 2 or 3 days or 4 days for the vendors to get back to me. I have instantaneous access to that information now. So it's a very powerful tool, and so like I said, there's like 6 categories that we can drill down. If you're looking for a data center in Denver, I can bring up and do a virtual walkthrough of these data centers.
Wow.
So I can bring a lot of information to the table. I can find out where fault lines are in case you're worried about an earthquake that might impact your data.
That would be a concern.
Or maybe a nuclear power plant would be in relationship to your data. So there's lots of things that you can do overlays with. So information that helps you make a good decision.
Okay, great. Well, that sounds like a huge time saver.
Yeah, it's really increased our ability to deliver information quickly to clients. And the output, I can quickly get matrices created that allow for the client to see on a single sheet or maybe a couple sheets of the cloud provider where they're located, how many employees they have, what their specialties are, anything that's unique about them, and they're all side by side.
Wow.
So it gives them a lot of information. So if you're worried, if you want a U.S. provider, if you want an international provider, all these things can be categorized.
Great. So let's talk about an actual use case. So if I was a new, let's say I was an IT manager at a company and we were opening a new location. One of the benefits of utilizing, let's talk about what would happen if you weren't there. So if you weren't there and I was the IT manager, I could go call CBTS and AT&T, and I could call these providers myself, get the addresses, give them the addresses, get the costs. But you'll do that, right? Mm-hmm. So I can come to you and just say, hey, David, we've got a new location. Here's the address. Go fish for me.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. So I can get all the pricing together. And I even have situations where a client, I'll run the numbers, but then depending on how the numbers fall, I will call the vendor directly too, especially if it's fiber, because sometimes the vendor can do better if there's a build. Like standard pricing is pretty much straight up; it's right there. But if there's something strange going on because the fiber's close but not really there, and I have a tool that tells me that as well, I can call, and then if a vendor believes that they can do better because they can package it a different way and build in the build cost, I would do that too. So I go beyond just the basics, but it's a great place to start, right? So it gets me asking the right questions. That's what I try to do for clients, is give them the inside baseball kind of scoop, right? Because you don't know what you don't know. And so the fact that I do this all day long, and I work with engineers that do this all day long, I hope you ask the right questions and bring the right solutions to the table that way.
And that's a huge benefit because, I may not know all the right questions to ask a carrier. Mm-hmm. If I'm looking, whether I'm looking for fiber or I'm just, with the whole COVID thing that's going on, maybe budgets are tight and people are asking me, can we cut costs? That would certainly, be a situation where we could, reach out to you and say, hey, we've got somebody that, okay. So, since we mentioned COVID, let's talk about that for a second, because you and I have had quite a bit of discussion about that and how that would benefit, not how COVID benefits, but how you could provide some benefit to a situation involving COVID. And one of the scenarios that we talked about was the home office. Mm-hmm. And I don't think a lot of people really realize that you can have 2 internet connections at your house. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so as people are working more and more from home, security is a big deal, flexibility is a big deal, but you are sharing your home network potentially with the kids playing Fortnite or Xbox or
Let's
whatever.
Let's clarify, you are sharing your home network.
Sure, that's your area of expertise.
Not Fortnite's not, no. But yes.
Well, I have a couple Fortnite players at home that's driving me crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that becomes an important thing because you're sharing with things that you're not used to sharing with when you're at the office, right?
Yeah.
So making sure that you have options. So bringing in a second internet, business class internet to your house, assure separation, assure that your business stuff is protected, is one method for sure. The vendors will treat you like a business client versus treat you like a residential client. So you have a little bit higher tier, higher response time, those kind of things as well. So,
that's not a solution that's going to be for everybody. Certainly if you've got a large organization, you're not going to give hundreds of employees their own, separate internet connection. But the point you brought up about Fortnite and, streaming YouTube and all that type of stuff, if I have to work from home and I need to attend this big meeting via Teams or Zoom or whatever the platform is going to be, it could potentially and will impact the quality of my experience because so many other members of my family are using all of my bandwidth.
Correct.
So I think this is definitely something that we're going to promote more because I really believe that in certain circumstances, whether it's maybe for your IT director, with your company, maybe certain C-level staff, But there are going to be key employees where I would feel that this would be a beneficial solution.
Sure, and then there's just other checks and balances. I mean, that's something that you educated me on from a security standpoint, and maybe you can expand upon it a little bit. Was if you're on a VPN, you think you're safe, but if you're able to print to the local printer, maybe you're not. So maybe you can expand upon on that a little
Right. So that's actually something called split tunneling. Mm-hmm. I did a presentation the other day for a financial board of directors, and this exact question came up. One of the board members actually asked me that exact same thing. She said, "Well, if I'm at home, what's the secure way for me to operate?" Because she asked, "Have we seen an impact with people being dispersed at home?" And I said, "Yes. The biggest impact that we've seen is that employees are getting phished more." So hackers are realizing that everyone has left the protective fortress of their company and have gone home to their 10-year-old Netgear wireless router that has no password on the router and a weak password for wireless, and they're very vulnerable. So what we recommend is utilizing the VPN software. We're a Fortinet partner, so a FortiClient is what we would recommend. So you go home and you connect to your wireless, and you would open your FortiClient VPN, and you would connect to the office with split tunneling off. Mm-hmm. Because if it's on, then what that means is you're connected to your corporate network, but when you surf the internet, you're surfing the internet of your local home. Mm-hmm. So that's not the ideal situation. So if someone on your network, on your home network, becomes infected with malware, they could essentially infect you, and then you can infect the corporate network because of that bridge is open.
Right. We're all connected.
Right. So, that's something that we, obviously do when, with our client set, is making sure that split tunneling is off, mm-hmm. because essentially we want to just have a closed hallway with no doors. So right. Shut the door behind you. The hallway leads directly to the corporate office, and the flow of information is just there. It can't leak out. And you brought up the question, well, what if I have to print? Well, get a USB cable, mm-hmm. right? You might have to walk up to the printer, or you might have to invest in your home office and get another printer that you can cable in so that you can print, right? So the point is, it's very important that you think about home security because of the time that we're in right now. Right. Because we've seen organizations say, we're going to let our employees work from home forever. Right. That's a big deal. I mean, now you've completely changed the way this works. Right. We both learned quite a bit from that.
Exactly, and that's one of the things about the Pathfinder tool is that all the vendors in whatever matrix we're doing, it shows you what compliances that they fit, whether it's PCI or FINRA or whatever. It lists whoever they represent, and so it gives you some peace of mind that those tools will be secure based upon your requirements.
Okay. So let's talk about what is the on the services that you offer and the situations that you've encountered, since you started the company. What's the best solution story or the best case study story that you have where you came in and an organization contacted you and you helped them with X? Can you think of the best solution that's worked out where you just went, man, that was a really good fit? You don't have to mention company names, but is there a scenario that you can think of?
Well, it was probably the one that I alluded to a little bit earlier, just because on the surface, it was a simple UCaaS phone solution. And
for those that don't know, UCaaS is what?
I'm sorry, Unified Communications as a Service. So basically, phone system in the cloud. I've been looking for years for a better way to say that, but there's just not.
And when you say so phone system in cloud, like 8x8, Ring Central. Okay.
Yeah. Teams now.
Okay, gotcha.
So there's a lot of them out there that can be used. And they all can have their nuanced benefits, whether it's a particular feature. I mean, there's probably 80 to 90% of feature overlap, generally speaking. So this first use case was an interesting one because it was a CIO that I had worked with in 2010 when I was still at another company, and he was this is his third company since I had worked with him, but I had met him at a technology event and saw he was looking, so he invited me in, and I just basically got to this scenario, what was important to him. And he had 3 or 4 things that were critical. One was the ability to SMS and MMS text from a business phone line.
Okay.
He had requirements for Microsoft Dynamics and then decent reporting from like a contact center perspective, and flexibility, ease of rollout. So at the time, I didn't know as much as I do now, but I mean, it was, so I dug deep. I went back, I just started quizzing every cloud voice provider, UCaaS provider that I could, and got down to those 3. I mean, because like I said, I had nixed. It was before the Pathfinder, so I had 3 weeks where
do it by yourself.
I was nailing it down, and I created a full blown report. It was about a 5-6 page report of the industry as a whole. What the requirements were, what the industry was as a whole, and I categorized probably the top 8, and even ones that couldn't do it. I listed why they couldn't do it and why they were not recommended, and we came down to a 3, and we did demos with the client. So these vendors, this is a large enough opportunity that the cloud providers didn't just do a web demo. And in lots of cases, especially with COVID now, the web demo is the standard format, but in this particular case, it was pre-COVID. It's 2017, and they flew in. We did a demo at the customer's office, and then the customer, we got pricing, and then I helped negotiate pricing. Right, so I figure out what the market's going for, and I help the customer ask the right questions to get the best pricing for what they need. And so that's been a great story because they rolled out 30 as a proof of concept to start. And they're up to 400 now, and they're going to be at 600 by the end of the year.
Wow.
So it's been a cool story. And the best thing about it is we're 2 years into it, and they're still really happy.
Well, that's a great testament because that also, tells people that you're not just dealing with smaller companies. I mean, right. Certainly, we've brought you in on smaller organizations, but you obviously also have the skill set and the ability to do. I think I'm familiar with who you're talking about, which is a larger organization.
Right.
What about outside of Cincinnati? Is that do you operate just inside the Cincinnati area, or can you pretty much operate anywhere?
Well, pretty much anywhere. With the web and everything, you can deliver services anywhere, especially with the cloud being the way it is. The technology allows for that, right? Obviously, majority of my clients are in the Dayton, Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, Southeast Indiana region, just because that's where my contacts are. But really, I have clients all across the country, or have locations all across the country for different services. So really, there's no boundaries there, and especially again, not that COVID's a good thing, but it sure as heck made remote meetings a lot more common, right? Yeah. So there's no expectation of me flying to Texas, which I could, for an in-person meeting. But now no one's like, don't come on site,
right?
So certainly anywhere is a possibility.
Now I don't know the answer to this, so I get to ask it anyway. What about assisting with like meeting rooms and things like that? So is that something you do turnkey all the way through? So if I'm a company and I'm looking for a video solution for my conference room, is that something that...
It can be. So video I have found to be, it could be as simple as anything and we can knock it out real easy, or it can be something grandiose where you need a customized outfitter to do it. In which case, I'm happy to make recommendations and hand you off to somebody that I trust. But if it's a standard business, you got a TV, you want a camera, a lot of those things can be done pretty easily at very low cost. But if you're talking about a room where you walk in, the screens come on, the lights come on, and you touch a button and your meeting pops
automation.
up, yeah, that might need a little bit more in-depth care. In which case, again, I have people that I know in the industry that would be able to help you out with.
Okay. Well, we're kind of getting here towards the end, so I wanted to give you the opportunity to kind of, if there was something I didn't ask, or if you can think of something that, man, I wish people really knew this about the industry, or I wish they knew how to do this, or I wish they would reach out to me when they get to this point. I mean, what's the missing piece of what we've talked about? Is there anything that you want to reinforce?
Yeah, I guess having done this for so long. I've done it when I got in the industry. I had hair and a waistline, so it was a little bit different tact.
I did know you back then. You did have hair.
But, you did a lot of smiling and dialing and cold calling and things like that, and it was a traditional sales approach. And it was a good experience. Wouldn't trade it for the world. But you uncovered opportunities, but it had to be right timing. You got hung up on a lot because of wrong timing.
Sure.
Now I've been around long enough that I work a lot on referrals, people who trust you to come in. But I think and I try to do a lot of educational type stuff. So I will find a partner who's doing a particular training seminar. Not that I'm endorsing that particular partner, but it's good information, right?
Yeah, education is key.
Yeah, right. So keeping people posted on stuff, and whether you're in the market right now. So solutions can be rolled out really fast, but I always like to have more time and not enough. So if you say, well, next year I'm going to call him, call me now. Let's have some conversations. It's good to not have any pressure, right? It's good to not have any immediate deadline. Let me learn about your business. Let me expose you to a couple people with some comfort spacing in between. So you're not trying to digest everything at one time. That way, when next year comes around, we can hit the ground running, make a decision really quick. I mean, on the flip side, if you do have an immediate decision, I can handle that as well, obviously.
Absolutely.
But
I think you're trying to avoid hey, my phone system contract expires next month, so I'm going to let you know.
Right. And which happy to deal with that as well. It just is a different conversation. It's a little more rushed. It needs a little more of your time and attention because I need answers from you to be able to get answers from them. And so we can time that out and pace it out. But to your original question is what I wish people would know. I wish they would know that there's never too early to start building that relationship. I know I'm just another person trying to sell you something unless you know me. Let's take the time and we talk. And, I'll meet with you 10 times without selling you anything. It's fine. I just want to learn and figure out what the goals of your business are and see if I can find something that fits.
Okay, great. Well, that's about the end. So David Lackey, VoipWerx, I appreciate you coming on. We're going to put your contact information at the bottom.
Okay.
You're a great partner here to Secure Cyber Defense, a premier partner. We don't stamp our name along with a lot of other companies. Obviously, Fortinet being one of them, you're probably number 2, and I don't think there is a number 3.
Appreciate that.
I mean, we've worked together for a long time. We've worked together with clients, and there's a deep history there. I'm very familiar with you and your work ethic and the work that you do, and that's why we endorse it because everything that you've said today, I know 100% that it's all true. You really are an advocate for the customer, and it's not about the vendor. So you'll get to the vendor after you understand what's needed from the client. So
right.
I think that's the most important thing.
Right, and I try to make sure that the vendor doesn't let me down, right? So I work on the customer's behalf to make sure the vendor delivers on what we taled about.
Right.
That's really key. So
all right.
Appreciate the time.
No, thank you very much. Thanks for coming, everyone. I appreciate your time. We'll be working on the next episode here in the next few weeks. So until then, thanks very much.